Welcome, everybody, to Unnamed Game, or as the running temporary title is, Hotel Game. Eventually, this game may get a name, but for now, let's see how these people handle this story to begin with. So, with us here, we have a handful of characters, 4 to be exact, joining the Ministry of Magic for one reason or another. The characters we have on hand are Ba-Ru, played by Jaeger. Jaeger, give the people out there a description of who you are and what you look like.
Baru is a tall, muscular half-orc. He has long, dark, dreadlocked hair. He has a very distinct slaver's facial tattoo sort of mark. It makes him actually rather ugly because he's tried to burn it off his face with acid, unsuccessfully, I might add. He is flame-scarred over most of his upper torso. He has heavy scarring. Other than that, he has a fairly penetrating gaze, and his voice is soft.
All right. And he finds himself in the Ministry of Magic. Why?
I imagine that he probably wants to become I'm making air quotes, professional user of magic in the city, and he probably has to do some sort of registration, or his mentor has sent him there as a starting point.
Absolutely.
Honestly, his character has Barrow has no idea what to expect. He's a little trepidatious, although he doesn't show it. Half-orcs don't show trepidation very well.
Mm-hmm. So it's your mentor would be like trying to kind of push you. You know, this is a good thing. You know, you want to really embrace your alchemy, and you're not going to be able to embrace it if you don't get properly licensed and you're not on the registration. You know, alchemy can be very dangerous. We need any sort of slip-ups that are off the record. If slip-ups happen, we want them to be fully on the record so you don't get in any trouble. And, you know, progression is important, right? We want to make sure you're secure, so that this is the right thing to do, and you can do it. I believe in you. I wouldn't suggest this if I didn't.
He is totally accepting of that. He worships the ground his mentor walks on, even though his mentor is very small. He doesn't hold that against him.
Very good. And I'm going to do this in what is my camera order, which I know may not be everybody else's. But we also have with us... I had the characters up, and then I changed the thing. We have... Why did I not... Oh, I didn't put anybody's name on this other part of this. Elizabeth Ronha. Elizabeth, tell the world out there about yourself.
First, does my sound come through okay? I have, like, red latency.
Sound's coming in okay, but it just seems like you're, like, a little laggy, but I can hear you fine for now.
There is some lag, but you are clear.
Okay, I'm pausing the kids' show, see if that helps. Okay, am I okay? Or is it lag still?
Go for it.
Well, yeah, it's a little
So, I think it's getting better.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's going up. Well, Elizabeth is average-looking human, blonde hair, green eyes, and she is a war priest who isn't good at dealing with people. She's very blunt. She can come off very abrupt and rude, and she kind of has channeled this deal with people into just being a very intimidating presence. She just gets angry easily and is just kind of a forceful personality because of a lot of the pressure her parents have placed on her over the years.
And why is it that Elizabeth finds herself in the Ministry of Magic?
I would assume it's once again one of the things her parents are imposing on her, like, oh, you need to go do this, and she's begrudgingly, okay, fine, do it, and hoping maybe when she's done, she can figure out what she actually wants to do.
No, honey, I know you don't want to do these things. I know you don't like this kind of, bureaucracy and dealing with these people. But it's really important that you take these steps. You really want to make something of yourself and be a good part of the system. You've got to take the initiative and you've got to show that you want this. You do want to be a productive member of society, don't you?
I guess.
Going from there, we head to Brianna Cadwallader. Brianna, why don't you tell us about yourself? Oh, you're muted, I think. All of a sudden, no audio.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, so, I am a halfling and a bard. My family are potato farmers, and they, kind of don't, get me, I guess you could say. Like, they really, just wanted me to take up farming just like them. And instead, I've always enjoyed performing. And so I actually traveled here to try to make something of myself. And unfortunately, I ran afoul of I was performing without a license, and I got busted. And so I am working for the Ministry of Magic in order to work off my debt and to hopefully actually get my license and be able to, perform legally.
Young lady, if you leave here with your little instrument to go off play, it's gonna be a big problem. You hear me? I will have no daughter. I will have no child. I will be a sole, lonely parent. Is that what you want to do to me? Is that the life you want to give to me?
I have to answer the music in my heart.
Then be gone from here. Nothing to do with you ever again.
Papa, why?
Be gone! And lastly, but not leastly, that brings us to Golron.
Hell yeah. So
Golron, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, Golron is a not super mighty dwarf, but he's all right. He's got lower than average strength of a normal dwarf. He's about 4'3", black hair, blue eyes. He's got like a medium length beard. And you'll notice his accent isn't like other dwarves because he was actually found in the woods as a child, kind of maybe abandoned, or he's not really sure. But the church took him in, and they kind of taught him the ways of, specifically, he drew a close alignment to Shashat, because she was the goddess of knowledge, and he kind of wanted to, like, prove to everyone that he could, like, prove himself and know things and not just be, like, a useless orphan that was found in the woods and helpless kind of thing. And I imagine he's at the Ministry of Magic to kind of officiate himself in the town, make everyone see him as like a legit kind of member and not just like a case to be cared for or whatever. He wants to kind of make it on his own. Yeah.
So your caretaker would have suggested that you join in order to kind of get through the ritual process of bringing you into your full, like, recognition as a cleric.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
Now, Golron, it's very important that you understand this is part of how the system works. Stay focused, do as they tell you. I know, like, some of this stuff can get a little bit pedantic and repetitive, but there is good purpose in this, and they do mean well. The most effective way to get to accomplishing the goals you want is to work within the system for now, and then we can work to make sure the system is flowing as it should.
I understand. I'll prove myself.
All right. So, as has been expressed, the four of you do find yourself working for the Ministry of Magic, an organization that researches, investigates, and deals with containing issues related to magical problems that are in violation with the law, or that bring into questionable areas things which may not necessarily yet be covered by the law. The ministry handles a number of different cases, from small to very large scale. You guys are basically kind of doing clerical work right now for Ministry of Magic. A lot of reviewing papers and documents, seeing what the report says, validating the information that's there, looking at lists of spell components and descriptions of what happened in a scene, and identifying these are the likely spells that had occurred there, and you're mixing paperwork on from place to place. Sierra Savant is a country that has quite a bit of bureaucracy to it. There's a very deep established system of government run by a council of mages. The Mage Council attempts to keep a very tight hold on magic to make sure that certain things don't create problems for other people and uncontrollable problems. And for these reasons, some spells come with a requirement of registration or outright banning. Using divinatory magic that scries upon people is explicitly prohibited. You cannot use any spells of such at all, and if you do, there is a architecture in place of magical energy that kind of that blankets the country, that will kind of ping out if an arcane signature similar to that of scrying divinatory magic happens, that will result in notification to nearby authorities, and it is likely that someone will be dispatched to your area rather quickly. Additionally, magic that changes significantly the way that you move requires certain registration. So spells like teleport, dimension door, and other kind of significant movement spells like ethereal jaunt, and spells that might take you from one plane to another or one place to another excessively expediently, you are required to register. And if you are activating those spells, there are predefined areas that are no-go areas, and attempting to enter one of those areas can result in immediate imprisonment. And I don't mean someone will be dispatched to imprison you. I mean attempting to move into one of those areas results in you being misdirected from that area and appearing in a prison cell where your magic will suddenly stop functioning. There are some circumstances where people obviously have learned to buck the system. So even though these rules are in place, you still need to be here because people still find ways to break the rules, change spells, and do bad things with spells because people like doing bad things. And while the Knights of Knightsbridge can do a lot of things to keep the city safe and know a lot about magic and have a lot of the tools necessary to deal with spellcasting, it is important, the job of the investigators and even the jobs of those who simply take notes and pass notes from person to person to make sure that the system of law does not fail to hold the city and the country, or does not cause the city or the country to fall into complete and utter chaos, as they have seen other countries do. The country of Sierra Savant is also an entirely closed off country. There is a barrier of magic outside of the country that prevents any ship or person from entering the country, both physically and magically. It is believed that there are people that have found ways to come into the country But if any of that is true, the government is certainly not going to acknowledge any of it. And knowledge about other countries is often very limited at best. You might hear a rumor or such or there, but otherwise it is impossible to enter and impossible to leave. Knightsbridge is kind of like a center point between two different parts of the country itself. There is one major road that goes between a river that cuts off half of the country to the south, and to the north, the mountain ranges block off any access to people from the east or people from the west moving in on each other. And this is almost by design in a way, as the people to the west get to experience the wealth of magic and development and progress that has happened for the consumer. Many of the items that people have access to here mimic the things that regular people in the area, in the space beyond the fourth wall, might be able to experience. Luxuries like washing machines, bathrooms, indoor plumbing, is just a fantastic symphony. Lights that operate when you enter a room or when you interact with them. These are all commonplace things that you have known because you happen to be on just the right side of the land. To the east lie farmlands and the wilds of the sands of the desert. The sands of the desert are known to be the most dangerous place in the entire continent. They are riddled with magical energy. Magic ebbs and flows and bends strangely as people use spells and attempt to manipulate the lines of magic that run through them. In the farmlands out to the east, tend to have people that, while they might have a significant amount of magic helping them develop their crops and grow their resources much more efficiently to feed their cattle, they do tend to not have the same access to the luxuries of the West. Many of them suffer to have some simplicities that you guys might take for granted. Things like indoor plumbing. Some of them have lights, but you'll notice at times, if you have been out that way, that some of them might still light torches or light lamps, or they might have to use the facilities in a building separated from the house, and they might use that as their fertilizer when the time comes. There is a pretty substantial difference between the two sides of the country, excluding one city that lies to the east, a city that you guys know to be kind of the epicenter of magical progress and development, a city of magic and lights unlike any other. Buildings of magical creation like expand into the heavens above and down into the earth below. Lots and lots of signage and places to move to and fro exist in a number of different ways. But that is a place far from Little Knightsbridge, a place where the classes find a place to kind of mesh together. There are a good number of lower class people, a good number of wealthy people, and you, the four of you, find yourself fortunate enough to be surviving at about the level of a lower middle class person. Aside from Elizabeth, who does get to enjoy some of the luxuries of being on the higher end of middle class, maybe even running along the edge of the lower edge of the upper class. It is likely that the four of you are very intimately aware of each other, as you've probably had to exchange paperwork a good number of times. And it's encouraged that people do sort of cluster in this way referentially when they need answers to specific spells, or maybe why do you think somebody might do this, on a report. It's important to have regular people that you go back to, that you feel like you know and you can trust their opinion. So presumably the four of you have probably got to some sort of maybe stable, maybe unstable cohesion, but enough that from time to time you probably find yourselves chatting with each other, or taking lunch with each other. I don't know. How do you guys feel like you would interact with each other or know each other? How well do you feel like that would work?
Well, I had a quick clarifying question. As a cleric, am I like what is a cleric status in this society? Like, are we seen as like automatic, like middle class, or is it like a revered kind of thing to be a cleric? Or
it is an honorable thing to officially become a cleric. There are many people who study to become clerics and may even like gain access to the spells themselves. But it is only an honorable thing if you can manage to reach that point. As somebody who is studying and that has managed to pass the entrance exam required to get into the Ministry of Magic in the first place, that is already like a step above and will likely give you at the very least status essential to probably maintain a lower middle class lifestyle. But if you can move into the actual clergy, you will find yourself like being able to grow to probably the bottom edge of the upper class.
Okay. Yeah, so I think Gularan will he'll kind of like he'll obviously know everyone, but I don't think he would be trying to be too friendly. Like he'd want to be like focused on like getting his like credentials to be a full-on cleric, and like kind of just be like treating this like a thing he has to do, but he's not like here to like be friendly with everyone. But
okay.
Yeah.
As far as for Brianna, I'm just I would think that I'd be pretty friendly with anyone, like especially if maybe we've done any work together. I would be sort of chat, but probably don't know like any specifics. I just kind of keep it to small talk, the light-hearted stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, Elizabeth probably comes off pretty blunt and rude to people, like not on purpose. It's just who she is, and she knows she comes off this way to people. So she's just kind of like, if people are friendly to her, then like she'll try her hardest to be friendly back, but it doesn't always come across that way. So just kind of like attempts to be friendly to people, but if she feels like they're starting to get taken by her bluntness, she's just kind of like, okay, bye, and walks away.
I feel like that's probably like kind of a bonding between her and Brianna. Is like Brianna has probably been like trying to like bring this this stubborn, angry woman around to like being a more palatable and a more like nice person. So you've been extending like courtesy after courtesy, trying to be as nice as possible, and just find nothing but like resistance and misunderstanding and like, why can't you just do this thing right? Like, this is clear. There's probably been some conflicts, but Brianna sounds like a pretty understanding person that's probably kind of willing to to accept like, oh, she must be having yet another bad day.
I feel like I would be like trying, but my like tries are coming off really terrible. Like, so say maybe one day Brianna comes up to me and like sees me, I don't know, clearly doing something or something. So she's like, "Oh, how are you today? Are you not feeling well?" If I'm like doing something that would like insinuate like maybe I'm hurt. And so like I'm trying to do the same thing back to her, but it comes across more of like, "Are you ill?" What I'm meaning like the same like nice thing where she was like, "Oh, are you okay?" But like I just like I'm terrible at like conveying niceness. So I'm just like, "Are you sick? Are you ill? Is there something wrong with you today?"
So, like, kind of like you have, like, the resting bitch face kind of thing going on, but, like, personality, too. Like, you just
Yes.
kind of come off a break. I'd probably be, like, trying to tell you, like, a joke or something, like, trying to get you to laugh and like, trying to, get some kind of nice reaction out of you.
I feel like that's probably also the same way you're kind of interacting with Golron, just a little bit differently, like trying to hack a little bit of that rocky exterior that the dwarves are known to carry with them, even when they're not trying to keep themselves like in their work and doing what they need to.
Yeah, I'd be the office person that comes by and like, tries to kind of break up the day a little bit, be like, hey, how's it going?
I'd be
Now,
the person that sees you sniffling and just starts throwing tissues in your face.
Now, how would Baru end up taking to somebody that kind of cubicle to try to bring everybody's day to pleasantness?
The thing about Baru is he's really smart, okay, and he understands the whole. I mean, the scarring on his face is so off-putting. He's used to people like staring, okay, and like he's been the person that Elizabeth shows, okay, the third wheel, the person that no one wants around, and he kind of understands that she's this way because she doesn't know any better, or even if she doesn't know any better, she just can't help herself. It's a defense mechanism, and he knows that. So he kind of, in his own head, he kind of takes to her a little bit. And while he doesn't make a super effort to, be super friendly with her because he doesn't like it when she is rude to him, at the same time, he understands, and he doesn't show this because he doesn't think that she would take this kindly, but he pities her a little bit. Like, he feels a little bit sorry for her. He loves the halfling, and he loves the fact that the halfling goes around trying to be nice to everybody. She was probably the first person to be nice to him, which endears her to him. And the dwarf, he's probably envious of the dwarf's obvious wisdom. I'm guessing you have a high wisdom, John.
I do.
And you've probably shown that in several instances, like, where something's starting to get a little heated, or somebody's making a really stupid assumption, okay? And the dwarf says, no, and like solves a problem somehow. So these three people, cooler heads prevailed, and he respects that immensely. So it's kind of like there's a reason why he likes everybody. He loves the halflings' outgoingness and willingness to be happy and smile. He feels like a kindred spirit almost with Elizabeth, and he very much respects. Say your character's name again, John.
Gul'ran.
Ul'ran. He respects Ul'ran's Gul'ran.
Yeah, this will actually be in character. You'll be like, Ul'ran, or I'll be like, it's Gul'ran, lad. I had to make it myself.
He respects Gul'ran's ability to diffuse the situation and his general wisdom.
Excellent. So then it is very likely that the four of you would probably from time to time have lunch, and when you're kind of called in for anything where they have a case that involves that they need, like, some sort of divinatory magic that might have some arcane signatures and some alchemical reagents in the situation, you are probably like called in as a group together, and like kind of debriefed on, here's what we've got for the documentation. If the four of you can kind of brainstorm on this and get an idea of what's going on here, this would be like essential and very helpful to us.
I'd like to note that at lunchtime I'm probably shoving food towards Brianna and saying, "You're too small."
At lunchtime, my character is asking Elizabeth how she is, and then making like a cringing motion because he's expecting her to. It's a joke. He's not actually cringing.
Yeah, I assume we're all at the same table, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, when she says that, she's like, "Oh, you're too small." I'll be like, what's wrong with being small?
I mean, like, I'm assuming we're eventually going to be out in the field. What are you going to do? Hide under a rock? You need to, like, beef up.
Ah, that's your first mistake, lass, judging a book by its cover.
I make that weird, like, purse your lips and open your eyes real wide and, like, nod, go, it's true.
While the four of you are enjoying your lunch, actually, a woman by the name of Maha will make will kind of be making rounds throughout the lunchroom. You would know her as the NIT manager or the new investigator training manager. She kind of, makes sure that as all of you are being kind of brought up through this training program, that I don't know what that means, and I need that to not pop up. I need my Discord messages to not pop with things.
Okay, no problem. I won't type in Discord.
Thanks. You will notice that that she seems to be eyeing you guys as she kind of rounds the room. Eventually, she makes her way to your table and pulls a folder out from a small case that she's carrying on her side. She's got like a sort of messenger bag her side, and she'll open it up and she'll pull out this folder and set it down in front of you. And she will probably slide it to let me think here for a second.
So what was her name?
Maha.
As she approaches, I make a bad joke and say, "Sure, here she comes."
She looks over at you, gives you a slight smirk, and then sets the folder down on the table, kind of center of the table, and for a moment looks over at Elizabeth like she should be, for some reason she thinks she should slide it over to her, but then it kind of changes direction and moves a little bit more in the direction of Baru and Brianna.
I think I would try to reach for it. Can we roll initiative to see who gets it?
Sure. if multiple people want to reach for it.
Yeah, whoever. I want to reach for it.
I have short little arms. I'm not reaching for it.
Just from an RP standpoint, I have, I'm a half orc, so I actually have tusks. On one of my tusks, I actually have a metal frame, and whenever I smile at somebody, I actually ding it with my fingernail. So when she smirks at me, I go ding. And I will go to reach for it, but seeing as aggressive cleric, war priest wants it, I'll go woo. Right? She does that look, and I go woo.
So Elizabeth, you get your arm out there, and you just grab it out from underneath Gulran, who's trying to play the cool and collected, reach over and grab it. And you're just nope, mine. I can't believe this woman is putting this on the other side of the table. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have. Yes. Well, this is a very important request, and I believe that after the research I've seen the four of you do together, I think maybe it's about time to put your skills to a little bit more of a, how we could call this field work situation. I don't want to give you too many of the details, but after you finish with Neil, one of the conference rooms is open specifically for you. We'll have your names on it. If you want to check in there, start going over things and discussing things, and I will meet with you a little later in the day.
Sounds great. So, I guess I'll be leading the bunch, of course? And this field work, you called it?
It is up to the four of you to decide who's going to lead. We don't deem leaders here. We expect all of you to act as leaders in your right.
I face palm.
Right. So, we'll be following my lead
palm.
then. Let's go. Finish our lunch quick. We got work to do.
Maha seems to look very proud as she watches Baru facepalm, and kind of turns with that very look what I did to walk away.
So I lean over to Brianna and I say, "Does field work mean more pay?"
I, holding the folder, briefly look at it, stand up, start to walk around, walk away, turn back around and look at the group come on, let's go. and then just walk to the com.
Ah, yes.
People still have their lunches in front of them, and you're just like, nope, time to.
Nope, time to go.
have-
We're
I
going.
have a little bit of food in my hair from where she was throwing food at me earlier, and I'm like,
Elizabeth, that'd be a great suggestion. I'll take it under consideration. Yes, I agree. Everyone should finish lunch early, and we should get a good head start.
I know it's a great suggestion. That's why I suggested it.
Yes, I took it under advisement, and I am ordering it. Thank you. I order lunch finished,
I will
and we shall...
accidentally spit
go.
a pomegranate seed in Elizabeth's direction.
Okay.
All right, follow...
Fruitarian. My character's a fruitarian. I eat fruits and nuts only.
Okay.
You
Gotcha.
can trust a cleric. Soon to be cleric. Follow me. We can eat later. I probably need that folder too, and I'll like chase after Elizabeth.
I'll stand
are,
up and offer my arm to Brianna.
Okay.
I
you
will
are
take
also
it.
welcome to take your lunches with you as well to the conference room.
Oh, I will
They
definitely
ask
pack
that
mine.
people not eat in the conference room. Like, you can't take your lunch break in a conference room deliberately. But if you have a case and you've reserved the conference room, you can, go take
oh,
matters
then I'm
in the
taking my
conference room.
lunch with me.
If Goron tries to reach for the folder at all, I'm gonna purposely raise it as high over my head as I can.
He won't reach for it, but he's just kind of like he knows like he doesn't want to like grab it off you, but he's kind of like making it look like he's let you carry it. Like he'll be saying like things like,
I'm doing this.
I'll be like, yes, thank you for carrying the folder for me. It's a good thing, thank you. And then I'll just be like following you to the conference room.
So I'll be walking slowly because, you have little stubby legs. So.
All right. You can make your way down the hall from the lunchroom to eventually find your way to... There's kind of like a long wall of various like conference rooms that exist. And none of these conference rooms are window-facing. And this isn't like you might expect in some offices where there's like glass walling. It is a completely walled-off conference room. There is one segment of wall that that there's kind of a false wall in there. You can press if you need to move into like the back hallways. A common thing that might happen in the event of some sort of attack on the offices, or if you needed to get specifically to one of the conference rooms from one of the main officers' departments. But otherwise, the room is pretty nondescript. Spare a sort of corkboard that exists against one of the walls, and the large kind of table structure in the center of the room.
All right, lass, you gonna share what's in the folder? Or are you gonna keep it to yourself?
Yeah, I'll walk in, sit down at on one side of the table, and wait.
I'm gonna glare at Goron and say, I haven't had a chance to read it yet. Chill. And
Okay, so you can open up the dossier. Inside is, a lot of your typical kind of like legalese, documents, and notes that kind of go over a situation. So what has happened here is a rather strange case of someone going missing. In the environment at hand, there is a home that exists of one of the lower class people within the town. They live kind of to the eastern side. So Knightsbridge is referred to as... Knightsbridge gets its name from the fact that through the center of the town runs a very long river, as I spoke of before. And there is a single bridge that connects one half of Knightsbridge to the other half of Knightsbridge. And back in the early days of the country, there were knights that would stand guard on each side of the bridge. And to this day, that tradition is still kind of upheld, but not in the same used to. The knights that stood at Knightsbridge used to act as both tax collectors and as guardians to make sure that no unauthorized people crossed over the bridge or if an invading force were to come, proper defenses would be like mustered as quickly as possible to stop those forces from having easy access from one side to the other, or vice versa. So when they speak of east or west side of Knightsbridge, they are referring to the separation of which side of the river that the city falls upon. You guys are on the western side of the city, in the like High Arcana district. So here you'll find a lot of like shops for magical items, a lot of like separate from the Ministry of Magic, there are private investigators that do exist, that run their own little shops around this area, and they investigate magic and other like non-magical circumstances. You'll find that many of your temples exist in this area, or at least many of your major temples exist in this area. Not many people live in this specific part of the city. So this person happens to be towards the southeastern part of the city. And the person in question is a child that has gone missing. This was first reported by her mother. A very, a much older human woman who seems to have had a child at a later point in her life. She claims that she was the victim of a bad circumstance, which is why she is a single mother. Her claim is that she can't remember what happened, but she ended up pregnant, and now she has this kid. And she originally came before the state some time ago. This is all in this dossier. She originally came before the state some time ago, trying to put her child up to be put into the foster care system, claiming that she can't manage this child, doesn't know how to deal with the child. And now she's come in claiming that this child has gone missing. A early investigation, normally in kinds of cases, they're kind of, put before an officer. The officer will go out, he'll kind of survey the home a little bit, and then the case will move to investigators within the Ministry of Magic. This is the case that is sat before you. A case of a missing child. The guard, the knight, in this case, as most guards are referred to, that has handled this situation, has noted within the file that that he found no trace evidence of any sort of arcana in the area. Normally, if you are entering into a place and and somebody has used some sort of spell casting to do this, there would be some level of residue left over from material components or something else that might have happened here. He does indicate, though, that at the time he did not have his meter on him to check to see if there was any arcane resonance there. In his report, he mentions that his meter has been functioning weirdly in certain areas, and so he left it with the repair team, but they have not given it back to him, and all the loaners are currently checked out. So he's kind of asked this to be elevated to a group of investigators to have them come out and look into the possible factuality of her claims.
So yeah, after I finish reading it, I'll just kind of I'm assuming there'd be a table in here?
Yes, there is.
So I'll just kind of toss the folder onto the table and offhandedly looks like some mom lost her kid and we gotta go track her down.
So
I will. Okay.
I was just
She
saying.
tosses on the table. I'm gonna reach for it and quickly read it. I figure with anything intelligence, I can read it really quickly. So.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead, Ginger.
I was just gonna say, upon hearing about a lost child, oh no, I hope everything's okay.
Yeah, so I assume we all taking time just like read it or like pass it around.
Yeah, everybody probably takes a good minute to at least peruse the basics of it. If not, try to go the whole thing. And after some time, you have this file in front of you. So the way this will kind of play out is the file that is in front of you. There is some information in there, some of which you might have to, that you can discern by kind of going through the details of certain things. You can also, that options that are available to you are you can go and meet with the knight that filled out this report. And of course, there is the expectation that you will, investigate at the actual scene.
Mm-hmm. Are we allowed to talk to the mom?
You are indeed.
Okay.
You are allowed full interrogatory procedures.
Yeah, I gather because the knight in question did not really discover much, that we're kind of taking over for him.
Mm-hmm. That is essentially what is happening here.
Okay. So I let them finish and I say, no time like the present. I'm ready when you guys are. I think we should go talk to the mom.
Of course. Perhaps the guard first, just to make sure the report is all accurate. But my initial hypothesis is perhaps the unknown fathers at play here. But something to keep in mind until we get more facts.
Well, we need to...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we need to hit the ground running. We don't want to lose a lost child.
Agreed.
The child's already lost. That's why we're here.
You know what she meant, Elizabeth. No need to be like that. The child's lost.
Like what? I was stating facts. The child's already lost.
It's a bit of a sensitive subject for me, okay? Lost children.
Okay.
Let's just get going.
All right.
So where are we going first?
Guard first, then we'll stop by the mama.
Okay.
I will acquiesce to that suggestion.
It is not a far trip to meet up with the guard. He is over here in the barracks. I'm going to move this layer to the map layer because I'm tired of inadvertently moving it. So you can head over. You put in your inquiry. Each of you are given it's a very smoothed out stone that is kind of it's a bit rounded but very, very flat, almost like you would see like a name card badge would be, but it's a little bit thicker, and what your parameters are kind of etched into the stone, and the stone gives off a very soft light. It gives off about 5 feet of dim light when you hold it. And it has your name, your current title on it, and then your Ministry of Magic certification on the bottom of it. And you're also given if you wear a belt or have some other strap, there's a holster that you can kind of put this in that locks into place, so you can put the rock in it, seal it, so you don't have to carry it around in your pocket. And that holster is also emblazoned with the seal of the Ministry of Magic. Which looks very similar to are any of you familiar with I believe it's the Eye of, hold on, let me make sure before I say this and I'm wrong. Are you guys familiar with the Eye of Horus?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not.
So it is the Eye of Horus, which is it is known as the all-seeing Eye of Magic in this world. And that is surrounded by a circle with a number of different words in Draconic, each of them signifying the different schools of the arcane, and then a second circle on the inside with a number of the domains of the clergy. So it kind of acts as an external visual badge that you can wear, but also this particular badge gives you specific clearance in certain areas. You can wave it in front of certain doors and have access to different areas based on your designation as the stone is set. So it's kind of like a key card in addition to being your your badge.
This is the stone, not the holster, right?
The stone, that's correct. The holster simply acts as like external way to show that you are definitely members of the Ministry of Magic.
And what is our current designation?
You are NITs. You are new investigators in training.
Okay, cool.
All right.
So yeah, you will arrive at the barracks, and
So on the way, I'm leaning over to Brianna and saying, "So which one of them do you think is actually going to be the leader?"
I would whisper back. I'd be like, "Well, if Elizabeth wants to be the leader, then I'd."
So I'm gonna try to be like leading the way. So I don't know if she's gonna try to like go ahead of me, but I'm gonna be trying to like.
Great, they're
They're
doing
just
that
gonna,
thing where they keep speeding
We're
up.
doing the whole like walk next to each other, and as one person gets ahead, the other person speeds up, and we just keep like speeding in front of each other until we're like almost half run.
Well, yeah, I mean, but keep in mind, inevitably, Elizabeth will end up ahead of Golron, because Golron does have the speed of 20, whereas Elizabeth has the speed of 30.
Speed of 15 because of encumbrance. So I'm a little.
Yeah, so you're even slower than average.
I'll look back at you and smirk when I'm clearly beating you.
Yeah, but you're at this point not just clearly beating him, but you're like clearly lengths ahead of the rest of the group as well.
So I say, Ulron, why don't you just let her get there ahead of everyone else?
First of all, it's
And then Jonathan
Gulran.
Wait,
Gulran, lad.
right?
Say it with me.
That's-
Gulran.
So I look at you and I go, ding, and click my tooth.
And yes, I told her to go ahead, like a good fast slash she is, to scout ahead. It's a good tactic. So she'll report what's ahead when we get there. It's great. Follow along. Be snappy.
You meant to do that all along. Huh?
I'm literally laughing when he says that because I think that's great.
That is the perfect example, actually. That's well done, because that is kind of the quintessential example of somebody who's like level-headed enough to like try to play everything off. But like, what's Gulron's intelligence?
8.
Yeah, so that's perfect. Not good enough to actually create a cohesive enough lie to sell
Right,
that.
because he's not actually lying. He believes that.
So yeah, so Elizabeth will get there before you, and she will actually meet with somebody behind, somebody at the front, who is there waiting for people to generally come in. And yeah.
I'm assuming the report would have had his name. The guard's name.
It does. His name is Hosu.
Say that again?
It's spelled even worse, so I imagine you'll mispronounce
God.
it. Josue. Hosu.
So I'll like look at her and then like look back down at the report and then like look at her and be like, I'm looking for Jasu.
Oh, you mean Hosu.
No, this is clearly Jasu. Look, it's spelt like this.
No. So the J in his name is pronounced like an H.
Well, that's just dumb.
That is very offensive. There are a number of old halflings from the era before that the name is still important to them. Now, he may not be full-blood halfling, but he's still his lineage is still trying to honor traditions.
Let us know when we walk in.
Oh, sorry. Can I just talk to him?
Sure. I will, I'll have someone get him for you. And she turns and, like, says a few things to somebody, and that person goes walking off, and, she says, you can have a seat. Somebody will be with you shortly. Or stand, your choice.
I'll stand things.
Okay. Do you still stand, you just stand right there at the counter?
Yep,
and you, like,
yep,
step
just
forward?
right there, like staring at her.
All right, so the rest of the three of you will come in as like person at the desk is like trying to shoo her to like there's other people in line. They need to come forward. But she's like I'm assuming she's kind of like turned herself so she can't even see the person on her anymore, and is like staring at the door waiting for the person to come through.
Okay, I come walking up and I say, "So, did you get a hold of Hosu?"
Obviously, I'm waiting for him to come out.
Ah, perfect. You put our name down just like I asked you to. It's perfect. Thank you. Whew, that was a quick walk we did there. Let's take a seat and relax and wait for our person to come out.
Hosu is a traditional halfling name.
Indeed, yes, it is.
After some time, a gentleman dressed in fully clad iron armor will step through the door, and he will he'll shout out. He is rather kind of short in stature, but not quite like a regular, more like a dwarven height, kind of right there in between the kind of halfling and human height. His features seem a little bit unusual as well. There's definitely some signs of halfling in it, but also some very clear signs of him. His hands are much larger in comparison to to his arms. So it looks almost like somebody cut hands off of a human and then taped them to a halfling's arms. Someone he was looking for Hosu? Yes?
We were looking for Hosu.
Oh, very good. Will you come with me then?
Sure. Come on, guys.
Let's go.
So Hosu will guide you back into one of the interrogation rooms. I assume you are from the ministry and you are looking into the disappearance of the young child. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
I present my my rock.
Very good. Very good. Did you get the report?
We did. We did get the report. We looked it over.
This, to me, seems like somebody crying wolf. Somebody who knows that if they can get the Ministry of Magic in, maybe they can build up a conspiracy. She didn't want her kid. I'm assuming you're probably not going to find much of anything, but I figured I might as well put it across your desks, just to be on the safe side.
What do you think she stands to gain by losing a kid? I mean, getting the ministry involved is the ministry going to give her money?
No. It would be sort of the lack of obligation. There are very strict laws around what you're allowed and how you're allowed to treat your children, and it's very important for people like her to be able to maintain her life. She enjoys many of the things that she has. You'll notice when you go in, she has a number of amenities that would not normally be the kind of amenities that somebody in her class system might have. Something I noticed that was a little bit odd about the circumstance. It definitely seemed like somebody who is probably getting a little money off the record, and is probably using very little of that to help their child.
So just to let you know, Barrow does not really approve of the caste system, even though that's the norm around here. So when he says, things outside of her class range, he sort of grimaces a little.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
And a grimace on a half-orc is nothing to be trifled with.
Right. He'll actually pick up on you doing, and he'll be like, "Look, I know that there are many like you that don't like talking about things this way, but sometimes you have to be willing to think about those details. Sometimes the conviction is in the things that that are very clear in front of you.
I nod non-committally. Not trying to offend him, but at the same time, again, inside my head, I don't agree with
Yes,
this.
he'll just like lightly shake his head, like he sees a lot of this on the regular. So he obviously disagrees and knows that like any sort of argument isn't going to lead to any positive resolution. So he just kind of like shakes his head slightly and goes back into it. But regardless, what is important is that we make sure this is thoroughly investigated. If there is something that is kidnapping children and doing it without leaving much trace of any archaeology, we need to make sure that it is brought to justice immediately.
Why would anyone want a child?
Well, let
Lots
me
of
ask
people
you.
like children.
Let me ask you,
stifles
Hozu.
a snicker at your question.
Did you get the sense that she was involved?
It was hard to tell. She was very manic, but not in the way that was she lost her child. She was very manic in that something had got it past her without her seeing. There was a lot of stuff about how she didn't see it, couldn't see it. She didn't see where the child went. It was clearly beyond her visibility because she took her time to take care of her child. There was a lot more trying to reaffirm that she takes care of her child and that she was paying attention, and somehow it happened underneath her nose. Then there was seeming concern for the child's well-being itself.
Can I?
So would you?
Yeah.
So would you say she was more scared than she was worried about her child?
I think she may have been worried that we might try to, gloss over this and put the straps to her. But that's not how we approach legality here. All personal opinions aside, I tried to operate within the letter of how we handle things here. It's very important that people get equal treatment under the law, and so done what I should do. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure from my feeling that she was interested in the child, but she definitely did seem concerned that she might go to jail for this.
So more scared of the consequences rather than missing her child. That's telling.
Yes.
Can I tell what kind of what mechanical class he is? Like, is he cleric, a knight, or fighter? Like, what does he appear to be?
Do you have what's your sense motive?
Pretty damn good.
Okay, so go ahead and give me a sense motive check.
Oof. Well.
Ugh, not like that. He's carrying. You do notice that he is carrying a rancer on his back.
Okay.
I gesture carrying, and I'm gesturing like I can't show you, but I'm gesturing to my side. You don't carry a rancer on your side.
Yeah.
But he does have a rancer on him. He's some kind of fighting derivative class, most likely. It's not often you see a spellcaster carrying around a rancer.
Okay. And then,
so
what are the rules on casting spells on people? And do I have authority to demand she allow me to cast a spell on her, or is it I have to request it and she might say no and I can't force her to?
There is probable cause exists in this world. So in order to cast a spell on somebody without their permission, you are required to display probable cause, and even then, it has to be very circumstantial based. Otherwise, you'll need something that's like the equivalent of a warrant. You'll need a writ in order to get approval to cast such spells. If she were to provoke you in some way violently, you do have the authority to cast some level of spells, but within reason. You can't decide, oh, she slapped me across the face, I'm gonna barbecue this bitch. You have to keep it within some measure of rational response.
Okay. But if she gives me her permission, I can do it as well?
Yes.
Okay.
There is a weird caveat to this system, though, and that is that you cannot, unless somebody is on the ground bleeding and dying, you cannot cure them without their permission.
Okay. It's like do not resuscitate kind of things.
Less of a do not resuscitate. It's about, there were some laws that happened long ago with clerics that were going around healing people with the explicit intention of groping people in whatever way they saw fit, and claiming like these, like they would look and they'd see like people had scars on them, or they'd see like, you know, maybe somebody had like pricked their finger on something, just looking for any sort of reason, an excuse that they could have to say like, oh, you look like you need some healing, and then
Jesus.
plant their hand on a chest, or like on a shoulder, or like, you know, on somebody's thigh, you know, whatever way that they could. So there became these very like no touch laws. So if you touch somebody without permission, especially as part of the like resolution of a spell, it is a criminal offense. So you can touch somebody on the shoulder normally, and that's of course that's still a question of problem. But if there's a spell attached to it, it is a very clear criminal offense if you have not gotten permission from the individual.
Yes, like, I can heal that for you, ladies. Do the other aspects of the government have to carry the same kind of identifying badges?
Yes.
So I will ask him kindly if I may see his badge.
Certainly. He'll reach down, and he's actually got a like bandolier that runs across his chest. I don't think it's really a bandolier; it's a strap. I think a bandolier is specific to having munitions.
Baldric.
But he'll open up his little pouch, which has the symbol of the Knightsbridge militia, or the Knightsbridge Knights, which is the symbol of the bridge emblazoned in white, with like two figures standing with ranciers in hand on either side of it. And he'll open it up and he'll extend his badge to you, which will confirm the information of who he is. He is Josu Lionel Leroux. And he is a Class 2 Knight.
Okay, I will show it to Ulrun. You look. You wanted to. Sorry, Gulrun. God, that's gonna be stuck in my head now because you expressed a desire to know what class he was.
Yeah. So.
So I'll say I'll actually show it to him and say, you know, Class 2 Knight.
Oh, is this like a mid position, or what kind of position would I know?
Class 2 is a lower-ish position. Class 2 Knights are often the kind of people that they normally wouldn't send out to an area like this to investigate. A Class 2 Knight would usually be dealing with more matters in the higher end part of town. They usually have Class 1 Knights that are overseen by a Class 3 Knight in a couple of different areas that will manage over that area. Class 2 is normally someone who would protect like some level of assets.
Is it unusual that he has been requested to oversee this area? Is that something that I would pick up on and ask him about?
Do you have any? What knowledge do you have on?
I have Arcana and Nature. Those are the only ones I have trained.
You can give me a knowledge local. This is kind of something that most people might know.
Oof.
Sadly, that will not do it, though. Does anybody else have any knowledges here that might be able to pick up on this?
Nobility.
I know we
I
got
only
a
have-
card, so that's access to basically
Yeah.
everything at half a point.
Yeah.
Should I
About,
just
like,
roll
religion.
Yeah, you can give me a local.
Ooh.
Very good. So with that 21, you'll know that it is weird. Like if he was an overseer, he would have been promoted to Class 3. They don't usually allow Class 2s to be overseers. And it's unlikely they would have assigned a Class 2 specifically to that area when there's an abundance of Class 1s to send over to work that area and kind of just do the regular patrols that are necessary. And he's clad in very like very high-end armor. His full plate is shined up really nice. His rancier is, there's no problems with the pole. There's no problems with the blade. He definitely is like at the, visibly at the higher end of things. So this is normally somebody with this kind of appearance is the kind of person that you would certainly see guarding some kind of location where there's some assets stored that are probably like government level property, or maybe like property of some business that's well enough established to be able to like have a regular patrol. So it is very out of the ordinary that he was in this area.
Only Rihanna knows this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Before we step any further, I do want to clarify something that will come up in this game. So there are some more defined knowledges that do exist, and these more defined knowledges won't function using your bardic knowledge skill. You would actually have to put in them. And the reason I'm bringing this now is because it is potentially going to be relevant as the game progresses. One of these is knowledge law. Knowledge law is like a direct extension of local and history kind of blended together to be a very specific thing that has to do with like when things are in violation of laws or making sure that you're following bureaucratic like requirements effectively. Having knowledge law might help you with certain circumstances. It means some DCs for things that are like legalese are lowered, so it's a more common thing if you like, the equivalent of a 15 in local or in history might be more attainable if it's got to do with legalese. It is more like a 10. Some things that are 20s become 10s, but there are other things that like with local or history, it's a very substantial role to like know the information that you'll need to from this. Because when you start getting into this level of bureaucracy in a civilization, knowing like the stuff around town or knowing the long history of the country doesn't necessarily encompass as much as understanding how the law breaks down on things. There's a few other categories that we'll get into as you guys start interacting with those categories, but having grown up in a town and being kind of new to the whole like system of things, especially as you've gotten into this, it wouldn't make sense that any of you would have knowledge law right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, carry on. Sorry, did not mean to ruin immersion.
Your camera messed up. I don't know.
I noticed that. It was like
it's
frozen on the stream, but
it's
I don't
fine
see
in
it
the
in.
call. It's just
it's fine on the.
Oh, it's messed up for me. Maybe it's my problem. It's like messed up in my call.
So I did want to clarify something. In the document, it said that whatever the device that they use to detect magic, he didn't have his when he went to investigate because it was being repaired, basically, correct?
Yes, it was malfunctioning.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Steve. Can you just like maybe turn off and on your camera? Maybe that'll fix it for
sure.
me. Fixed. Thank you, sir.
Cool. No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll say to him, why would you go to investigate something without a proper working, whatever you call it? I don't know.
I was in the area at the time. I have some family out there that I was visiting with. And when the call came in, I figured I'm right nearby that area. Maybe I should go take a look at things. More of a convenience, and I happen to be ranked well enough.
I'm studying his expression and seeing if the story seems plausible.
When I'm hanging out with family, I don't normally like to go work, but okay.
I mean, it is a little odd that a class 2 would be there.
Yeah, as you guys are kind of putting the screws to him, and Gulran, you're listening to what he's saying, like, he's fidgeting just enough that, like, there's something here he isn't telling you. Something that just doesn't sit right.
do I get the impression that he's like withholding something, or he's trying to hide something? Like, is he like scared we're like coming close to something, or is he more like, I don't know if I could determine this, but if he seems more like he's just trying to like not say something to get himself in trouble, or does he seem like guilty of something? Like, I don't know what kind of sense I'm getting.
That's not really what you get with an 18. Maybe a little higher you might have accomplished that, but
all right, then I think I would just say, listen, lad, I can see you fidgeting. Just come out and spit it out. Just, you're not in trouble here. Just give us the facts so we can solve this.
I'm giving you as much as I can. The situation is as such. I was in the area, and I figured it would be best if I investigated it. I have more skill and more knowledge in the subject, so I figured it would be best if I took a look at it. Why send a class 1 out when a class 2 is in range?
Why send a class 2 when a class 1 can do it just as easily?
I don't always trust class 1s to get a job done if you can have a class 2 look into it.
Okay.
Are we effectively like class 1s, or?
You are in a different system. So as NITs, you exist in the Ministry of Magic. So the class system exists for the knights. The Ministry has their own system. That as NITs, you've only been briefed on like what NIT means. You haven't been briefed on any of the like next layers of investigation.
I'll just be like, well, that sounds dumb. They obviously are capable of something. Why wouldn't you trust?
And did they pay you like overtime for investigating when you're supposed to be on personal time? Like, how does that work?
I mean, I wasn't entirely on personal time. I was like,
so you're doing personal time on the job?
No. You know how you take a break, and sometimes you might go and you might visit your family or something, and then you like come back and you work your shift. Where my shift is close to the bridge, and so I took my break and I went over and I saw my family, and then I came back and I was on my way, but the call came in and I was on the way passing it, so I figured I might as well stop in and take a look.
Could I be taking notes? Do we have
without your
to take
magical
notes?
device?
Yep.
No.
If you want, you can have you can pick up a like notepad. They have like one of the like the giant yellow pads that you would get to write down on.
Okay, I'm doing the thing where like when he's talking, I'm like making that sort of.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually trying to rattle him if it matters.
Yeah, give me an intimidate.
Dump stat. That's all I gotta say about it.
Oh!
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so you do notice it's having like it does have some effect on him. He does like glance over to you periodically. Not quite enough to get him to change his story, but there is definitely a noticeable like discomfort he feels glancing over at you as you're taking notes. And he like every once in a while you notice his eyes kind of hope to peer over the paper somehow, even though like you're dramatically taller than him, and just where the notepad is, almost is above his eye level.
Are you a holy man, sir?
I pray from time to time that Anher will give me guidance and safety.
Well, how would you feel if I wanted to bring in some divine magic here just to make sure we're all telling the truth?
I don't necessarily know that's necessary. I am telling you the truth. I mean,
for sure. Just had nothing to hide. It wouldn't matter, would it? Just be
as a class 2, my word is as good as any zone of truth.
I know. That's
is that true?
Give me a knowledge local. A 10 is enough to know that is factual. As far as it is concerned, a class 2 information coming from a class 2 is considered to be as valid as information coming from a defendant under a zone of truth. Now, keep in mind, I say defendant here under a zone of truth. because there is like equivocal levels of information validation.
Kind of like their word is their bond. They're bonded basically. Yeah,
exactly. Okay. A level 1 would not be considered this way, but a level 2 has been thoroughly vetted to this point.
Okay, yeah. If I knew it was like overstepping my bounds to ask that kind of thing, I guess I would just like ask it like briefly and then just like kind of like let it go.
Oh, no,
just
you're not necessarily overstepping your bounds. As members of the Ministry of Magic, your job is to ask the right questions, and that was a very reasonable question to ask.
So I'm sorry. What were the exact words that he said? So whatever he said, like, you know, as a class 2, my word is my bond. I'm actually like mumbling that as I'm actually probably drawing a picture of a banana. I don't really care what he's saying. I'm just trying to intimidate him.
He says his words are as good as a zone of truth.
Oh, my words.
All right. Well, good enough for me, I guess. But shall we go visit the mom?
Nobody else who wants to try to aggressively get some information out of him?
I mean, we can't be too aggressive with him, right? Like, we'll get in trouble for like he's like basically like a cop, right? Like, we can't just be like.
I mean, it's about like failure. You can get in trouble as a cop for like pushing a defendant far unless you get information from them. At which point, like, now they're a criminal, and
True.
Your actions were, you know, in the heat of necessity. So it depends on how you feel about this circumstance. If you feel like you want to interrogate any further, investigate any further into him, you can take him at his word.
So I want to sing a song about secrets and lies to see if it like makes him in any way like get even more nervous.
Yeah, what is your performance in? Is it in singing?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, okay. Hold on a sec. Let me double check something here.
Okay, because I'm gonna want to do something too. So.
Yep.
Ditto.
Just checking. Come on. Where is this? Okay. So you don't quite have versatile performance yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, versatile performance happens at 2nd level. But this is a good role-playing thing because this is you kind of utilizing what you have to like try to bolster things a bit. And I will let this work as a aid for somebody else's check.
Okay.
Ooh.
Am I able to
I heard 2 other
subtly
people say they want to do things?
like? Am I able to read the room to see like this is what we're trying to do? Like, I don't know if you want like a sense motive or a perception or something.
Yeah, sense motive.
Sense motive.
I'd say you can probably figure it out though, even like without a roll potentially.
Well, because like we can't really like vocalize this. I don't know how clear it'd be, but I don't know.
Yeah, you can get it on a 10. It's like you can read the room pretty easy.
Okay, so then I would just like tap. What's your name again? Elizabeth. I would like tap her shoulder and I say, I'll just like whisper like, "Good luck, like you got this," and like give her guidance. I'll turn. Wait, I don't know why there's a spell failure in there. Oh, I turned it on by accident. I'm divine, bro. Can't fail this. Yeah, I'll turn my back to him so he can't like see me casting a spell, and I'll like tap her on the shoulder and give it to her.
When you turn your back though, and as you're uttering the words that go along with the spell, with its
in a
verbal
whisper,
components,
I'm whispering it.
I don't have any dice with me, so I need to whisper things to myself.
Oh God. And she's singing. Maybe she can't hear me well.
It is a factor. Oh fuck! How does this? It's /W. Oh, I saw R in the wrong place.
Or you can do / talk to myself as well.
No, it's like exclamation point or something, right? After you whisper.
I have no idea how to whisper.
Fuck.
We can do like slash talk to.
I'm gonna roll it so you guys can see it. Fuck it, I don't care.
You can do slash talk to myself.
Yes,
And-
but I still don't know how you make it trigger the roll. There's an extra character I know I'm forgetting, but it doesn't matter.
Oh shit.
Front of the scene is fine. So yeah, he notices like what you're doing. And he's like, "Hey, what is about to happen here?"
So as he says that, I'm just gonna like start talking and just be like, you know, it just seems really odd that you would go to investigate the scene without your proper equipment. Like, is that a standard practice? And I'm just like trying to like bombard him
I was
with
like,
these like
as you can tell, it's a
questions.
simple calming spell for my friend over here. She's very upset. This issue hits quite home with her. I knew she would react this way.
He like shakes. He tries to shake at you, but like he's also getting very, very like flustered as she starts going on. Go ahead and give me your intimidate.
Oh no!
Oh.
Unfortunately, you trip.
No, so here you're moving in on him, and you're like getting very, very angry, and like he's like, but his eyes are like focused on Gulran at this point, like very intently. So you're just like yelling at him, and he's like backing away from you, but at the same time, like he's barely focused on you. He's like cold, dead staring on Gulran, because Gulran kind of gives it away with the casting of guidance in this particular case that he very clearly eyed.
Well,
You need to settle down. Your friend needs to be careful about how he throws spells around here. Now, I happen to be a reasonable man and understand that you want to get information that you feel like I'm hiding from you. But I don't really feel like there's much more I can answer here unless you can find some more evidence. I think I've given you all the information I can give you, and I need to get back to my post. Have a good day. And he will like walk over to the door and open it and gesture for the four of you to leave.
yeah, I'll start
I'll
walking
walk out, but I'm gonna glare at him the whole time.
All right. Can we take a couple of minutes break here?
Yeah.
And then we will, I'm assuming,
Yes.
go meet with the lady down the road.
Yes,
Yes.
Is everyone okay to continue?
I am.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
good.
Just take a quick
Okay.
break.
Excellent.